What's up, Dog Squad? Truck60 here. Today we are going to be tier ranking, or I should say, grading every single NFL team for the 2023-2024 NFL season. Now the NFL season's wrapped up, we're going to be doing that. I had another video planned for you this week, but I can't do it. Friday I was supposed to do the Only on Sports video, and Saturday was supposed to be this video. So we'll have more videos going, especially off-season, all that stuff of trades and reports, all that you can find here on the channel. Dim Boys, anything that has to do with the Cowboys, we'll see over here in this channel, and Dim Boys Reports. Go follow that. Link is in the bio. Hope you've been enjoying my gaming videos. It should be posted now. I just made a couple hours ago my Fortnite video with Sam Diamond, one of my friends. You watch that video, go check it out. It should be before you see this video. So this is later, and so I'll be editing both these videos and posting one at a time after I make this. Well, as we get into this, we just hit 800 subs on YouTube. Thank you so much. We're about 100 now, 98 subscribers away. We have 802, so please keep it up. We did hit the 800 goal by March. Let's try to get to 900 by April, and let's get to 1K by May, maybe June. So we should be able to get that by the end of this school year, so let's try to do that. Now, without further ado, let's get right into this video. Alright, so this is grading here, A, B, C, D, or F, and we start off with the Arizona Cardinals. They were, I have to say, a D this year. You know, they really were not good, but they aren't an F because of the way they played against the good team. You can't give them a C because they really didn't have a mediocre year. They didn't. They didn't have an average year. They had a bad year, but they weren't as bad as people thought. They fought. They beat the teams like the Cowboys and the Eagles that were actually a good team at the point, and they didn't quit. And they almost beat the Ravens. They almost could have. They had good fight against the Niners. They went to Pittsburgh and beat them. You know, they came to these places and beat these teams that were good, and they didn't back down from a fight. They definitely wanted to play, and that's why you give them a D. Maybe I'm sure they'll have a better year next year. We go to the Atlanta Falcons, yeah, just a C. They had a mediocre year. It was back and forth with Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder. I don't think they need to be starting anymore. Arthur Smith obviously is fired, but I don't know what they're going to do. They're probably going to get a quarterback anyways. So, yeah, they got to switch away that. They've been switching out quarterbacks all year, so I think this was a mediocre year for them. Some went well, some went bad. I thought they'd be better, thought they'd win the division and have a perhaps playoffs, so... but yeah, we'll see. Okay, so Ravens, definitely A year. They made it to the AFC title. They got the 1 seed, won the division. Lamar got MVP. I mean, how could you not put them in A year? They were definitely an A-plus regular season year. And, of course, maybe bump a little bit down after the Chiefs lost. But they had a great year. You know, they're one of the best years I've ever seen them play, besides the time they went with Joe Flacco. Closest that they had a chance to go Super Bowl. But, you know, they can't. They're still over that hump. Speaking of humps... Buffalo Bills, another A team this year. Definitely, I would say it's an A- here. Close to a B+ because of the way they played at the beginning of the year. But they were an A year. They finished the season right. They fought, and they had a terrific outcome. They went to the AFC divisional game, lost Kansas City. You know, they did have the year that they wanted. You know, I could say they could have a B, but I really think that they have an A- here. I do really think that this team, I definitely think this team was over the B. They were an A because of the way they were able to. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. They had a bad start, but they were able to get to quite up to that A- spot. If they hadn't won the division, I could have probably said B+, and I'd put them in a B. But then they won the division, they went to the AFC divisional. I'd say like that's a normal year for them, but I'd give them an A. Carolina, yeah, F. They're terrible for everything. They got blown out. Bad teams. Bad team. You can't say anything else. Chicago Bears. I want to put them in a D, but I like the C. They were just average this year. Had some ons, had some offs. Yeah, Justin Fields. You know, some people kind of thought they'd be a little better. Some people didn't. You know, they'll try to figure some stuff, but they were basically the C team this year. They're a little bit lower, probably a C-, C range. Definitely a team that could be this year. And then the Bengals, that's something else, man. It's a little tough for me. Can't say, I don't know if I want to say they had a B year or a C year, but I definitely think they fell off. They had some tough ones. Yeah, I think it was a C year for them. They had some up and downs. It was back and forth mediocrity out of them, and they definitely weren't ready for all the challenges. Definitely some tough spots for them, but they couldn't make the playoffs, got eliminated a little bit earlier than they expected. Definitely some trouble for them. Browns, give me them with their B year. I think this was a B year because I do think that they didn't win the division, but they did have the year. I give them about a B+ year. They did win the division though, but they did have Joe Flacco. They had quarterback changes. It was a better year for them, much better. Good job them, Joe Flacco leading it. It was probably a B+ year for them. A good job for them going into next year. But we'll have to see what goes on. I think they'll have to be better. I can see them more fine with the Ravens. They did beat Baltimore this year. I would put them at an A if they had done a little bit more than they should have, but I think so. Cowboys, I'd say another A year for them. They were one of their best years I've ever seen. Even though they didn't make a wild card, even though that we choked, they definitely did prove what Dak and Lamb, and they could go really far in the future if they want to play like they do in the regular season. That's the question. Denver. They had their off year. I think it's a C for them too. I think it is a C. They were good, then they were bad, or they were bad, then they were good, then they were bad again, and then they were good for a second. It was all over the place. They were trying to figure out what they need to do. They thought they could go to the playoffs. It was definitely a C year. Mediocre year for them. The Detroit Lions, definitely in the A column. Definitely what we'd like to see out of them. Winning the division. Going to the NFC Championship game. You like to see it out of them. And definitely what we would love to see is them go to the Super Bowl at some point. I would love the Cowboys to see the Cowboys go to the Super Bowl, but we'd love to see the Lions to go to the Super Bowl as well. But Bills-Lions game comes in the future. That would be good. Hackers. I would give them a B year. They made it to the divisional. They beat us. They had a better. If they had missed the playoffs, I'd have them as a C year because of their back and forth. But I think now that I think because of the way they finished to get to the B year, they bumped up to a B because of the way they were able to play and were able to improve. They had the year that no one had really expected. I think that's above mediocrity and average mediocrity. Texans, B year. Love to see out of them winning the division and going in the divisional round and not being good for a second, but then they were able to finish it. I can't give them an A. It doesn't seem like they should deserve the A but I think they're a high B team. They're expected a lot. They were expected a lot. They expected a little bit less, but I don't think they were expected to go to the divisional round and blow up the Browns. Colts. I'll give them also a B too. They made statements, they made changes, and the Gardner Minshew led them to almost the playoffs after getting a heartbreaker against the Texans. Jaguars. It's just I think it's another B year, but it's a B- year. Great 8-3 year, and then they bumped it all the way down. I think it's going to be a low B for them. I would put them as C, but the way I know it's not how you start, it's how you finish, but the way they were able to play 8-3, get some of those wins, and get themselves in that playoff situation a little bit more, I think there was a low B for them. Not as good as I think the Texans and Colts had this year because the Texans and Colts kept fighting, and Jaguars should have won it. Chiefs, definitely an A. You won the Super Bowl. I mean, how can you not? When I say season, I mean the whole entire season for each of these teams. I don't not just count regular season. I'm talking about how they played postseason. You got to grade all that. So that's why playoffs matter. Cowboys, I know we got to eliminate a wild card, but you see how the way we play. I think it's going to be an A- for them. Chargers, definitely, I think just a flat out. I don't know if I want to say D or an F. I think this was a fail. You just couldn't do a thing anymore. I think this was a fail. Couldn't do a thing when you were down by 3. Couldn't win the games, and then you got blown out. Fired your head coach. Definitely a failure year for you. The Rams, I mean, They were good. I mean, they fought. B year for them. Can't really say. I can't really say some of these teams that were in the playoffs had a C year. You just can't really say that you had a C year in that expectation. Yeah, I just can't because the Rams. I know they were, even though they were still 3-4, they still had fighting them. They were beating Seattle twice. I mean, they were still the same Rams, and we. I mean. Make sure we want to see more out of that from Matthew Stafford. I know he's getting older, but you know this Rams team has like a veteran team, and they're going with the 6th seed, almost beating Detroit, losing to them sadly, but they do get the wins in the regular season to punch their ticket to the playoffs after having Matthew Stafford injured and a lot of the other players like Cooper Kupp. So we'll see. All right, Raiders. I put them at a C year. They were good, and then. They were good at points, and then they beat the Chiefs, and then the bad parts, and they'll get themselves situated. They got Pierce at head coach, so I definitely see. Dolphins. I think for the Dolphins, I do see them. I really want to say they had an A year, but I really think it was a high B year for the Dolphins. They showed just some. I think they weren't beating the teams that they should have beaten. And when it came down, they lost to some teams like the Titans, and they maybe should have beaten Philadelphia, and they couldn't beat the good teams at one point. And Dallas and Miami were pretty close. I mean, I'd say Miami was at a B+, but they definitely, I think, just had the better year than last year. They went up a little, but they still were dropping games at the end and then lost in the final. I mean, definitely, yeah, I give them a B for that. The Vikings, I'll put them at a C. You were almost in the playoffs, then you got bounced out. You lost some games. You were at a point where you were winless. You were winning. I mean, you lost Jay Jess and Kirk Cousins. I mean, yeah. Patriots failed. You had a terrible year. You bench your starting quarterback. Bill Belichick's leaving next year. Definitely a failing year for the Saints. I mean, they're a mediocre team this year. Definitely not. Definitely almost made the playoffs, but. So like I said, some ups and downs for them, but they'll have something going on next year. D, Giants. Yeah, I can't really give them. I mean, honestly, I want to give them. That's kind of tough. Giants. I think the Bears were a little bit more tougher than the Giants, but I don't know. Giants were like 6 wins. Giants, I could give a C, but. I'm going to go and give them a D. It's going to be very high D, but they're like the Cardinals. They were like the Cardinals this year. You can't. I think the Bears and the Giants, the difference with the Bears is I think they started getting better towards the end of the season, towards the end of the season, and they started actually playing really well. Giants had some struggles. They almost did beat the Rams, though, so the Giants, I guess you could see a C, but I don't know if I really want to mark the Giants at a C because I don't know. They played really well towards the end of the season, but they had that part of the year where they were bad, and I don't think it got them enough. I think their year was a D. They had too many injuries. I think they were not as good. Jets, D. Definitely a D for them. We were wanting to see Aaron Rodgers to see how he would do, but if that was the case, I'd probably move them up to a B or an A, but you know how far they went. But they went around games, and they got blown out, and it's just a sad team this year for them. And all right, Philadelphia. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. It's definitely a B. You really were like on your A year, 10-1, to drop in 11-6, and then you had 11-7 afterwards. Ugh. Downfall for year, you went down like to a B-. They're worse than Miami, I think. My opinion. Steelers, I'll give them a B year. You were actually good at one point, and then you went down, and then you went back up a lot. You made the playoffs with Mason Rudolph, your third string. You didn't have that much big of a fight to Buffalo, but you did fight in there somewhere in the playoffs. So in the playoffs, got to give them a B year. Seattle, definitely I'd say for them, they had a fall off. But I think for them, I think it also goes to a B year for them. I think Seattle should have deserved better. Then they started falling off a little bit. They had a great season, and then they lost a few games, and then tried getting back up. But they were definitely, I think they were on their B team this year. Niners, definitely give them an A of the year. Niners going to the Super Bowl, of course, having one of their best seasons in a while. Definitely. Buccaneers, B. I give them a B as well. Definitely some things that we did not expect them to have. Baker Mayfield leading the team, almost having comeback player of the year. Good job to the Buccaneers. I can see them going far. They did fire their Todd Boyles, but, you know, I don't know how far. I don't know how it's going to go this year. The Titans, I was going to give them a D, but I think they showed some strength. I think with Will Levis being QB, I definitely could see them doing better in the future as their starting QB. I'm going to give them around a C- of the whole entire year. I think they'll do maybe a bit better next year. I was going to give them a D. I kind of thought about it, but I kind of see that they're a little bit better than we kind of imagined. To definitely see out. And then you have the Washington Commanders failing, bad year, terrible year, 4 wins. Not the year that they kind of hoped. I mean, I kind of expected them to have a bad year, but I didn't actually think I was going to be right, honestly. But you see right here, you got 8 teams: Ravens, Bills, Cowboys, Lions, Chiefs, and Niners. Definitely some teams that had a really fight this year. Chiefs didn't have the best year. I would have had them at a B. If we were talking about regular seasons, I may have had them at a B because they had a downfall year, but they definitely had some Cowboys had one of their best regular seasons, but they didn't go far in the playoffs. And then you had some good teams in the season to kind of, you had the playoffs like usual. So some pretty original teams right here. Detroit getting a new into the spot. The Browns had a better year. I'd say that was better for B. Packers, definitely got to mark them as B. They did not have a mediocre year after their outcome in the tournament. Texans and Colts, definitely, I can't really have them as B. They had a great regular season. They didn't have back and forth. Had a winning record most of the time. Jaguars, Rams, Eagles. I think Jaguars definitely could have made a C, but I think of the year at the start of the beginning, I think that you can't really have that. Rams definitely better. Eagles, their downfall could have easily led them to C. Really high for the Dolphins, like I said, but can't. But I think the regular season could have been better. Steelers, Seahawks, and Bucks all having either close playoff appearances or getting in the playoffs. The Buccaneers actually went far, so definitely for them. Falcons, definitely C. Bears, I'd say give them C. I can't really give them a D after the way they play. I know you're all wondering, like, what the Bears got to C. Giants, how the D, because I do think they were sucking in the beginning. And even though they gave me a fight, they're injured quarterbacks. I can't really see them getting a C. They're high D, though. The Bengals, all them, mediocre Broncos, Vikings, Saints, I mean, they all got up there with them, and they were all bouncing back and forth. I guess I can maybe give the Giants, if we're going to talk about mediocrity here, but I would say definitely I think that there were further. Bears actually had a shot. Bears and Giants were very close to each other. I just think the Bears were the C team. Broncos actually had a shot for playoffs for a while until they blew it. I think they're a low C team as well. Vikings, Saints, and Titans, I think, were teams that also have a mediocre year. Titans were lower, and then these teams were D. The Giants were the highest D team, and I think these were just failures of the year. I don't know, that's kind of confusing. Some of these I could be wrong about some of these teams. They're just my opinion, because some of these teams are kind of hard to decide, because I mean, like, you got Denver that I really think maybe could be in the D list. They could be in the D list, but I think their year was average of what we kind of expected them to have 7 wins. It was about what we thought. So you got to put them in the C. So, hey, I think a lot of these are about right. Some of them may not be. Let me know what you think. Remember to stay tuned. Thank you for 800 subs. Let's try to get to 1K by May or maybe June. And I will post more videos next weekend for the off season, and I will also have more gaming videos next weekend, so stay tuned. Remember, it will only be 2 days next week because, well, you know, just like a regular weekend. But I'll see you next time, Dog Squad. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.